Why are we here? What is the meaning of our life? What if I told you that at the core of our existence lies an abyss of meaninglessness? These daunting questions lie at the heart of nihilism, where meaning fades and possibilities emerge. It is a philosophy that many find unsettling, even terrifying, for it requires a courageous confrontation with the void that mocks our attempts to impose structure and value upon a universe that may care very little for our existence. We find ourselves somewhere on this planet, insignificantly suspended within the vast cosmos, resembling a minuscule speck of dust adrift in the night sky, our significance reduced to infinitesimal nothingness. In the face of the immensity that surrounds us, our existence appears feeble and inconsequential. Yet, we still try. Our feeble attempts to pursue wealth and power, work in a regular job with regular people, with our dreams woven with threads of hope and determination, are nothing but mere illusions dancing on the precipice of nothingness. So why even try? This is nihilism, the belief that life has no inherent meaning, and that there is no ultimate significance to human existence, and any attempts to find meaning are ultimately futile. The nihilist requires us to reject the belief that something can have intrinsic or inherent value, whether that be events, individuals within our shared universe, or even entities or powers that hypothetically exist beyond our shared universe, such as a transcendent deity or divine form. The nihilist believes that even if a supernatural or otherworldly reality exists, it may have no impact on the value we attribute to our everyday lives. Friedrich Nietzsche was one of the first philosophers in Western tradition to explicitly address the dangers and creative possibilities of nihilism as a cultural and historical phenomenon. He suggested that nihilists recognizes the transience and impermanence of life, which leads to a loss of faith in previously held ideas and standards. Nietzsche claims that nihilism involves the deflation and disintegration of values that were once considered central to one's life, calling into question the very purpose of one's existence. Nietzsche famously proclaimed, "God is dead, but how can something eternal die?" The death of God in Nietzsche's eyes symbolizes the erosion of traditional religious and moral frameworks in modern society. Nietzsche argued that the decline of religious beliefs and the rise of secularism had rendered traditional conceptions of God and absolute values obsolete. With the loss of a transcendent authority, Nietzsche saw a crisis in meaning, purpose, and morality. As a result, Nietzsche went on to reject Christianity. According to Nietzsche, Christianity rested on the belief that it served to suppress individuals, stifling them with moral codes and instilling self-loathing. He saw the ideal human as someone who could freely express themselves, akin to a great artist or a fearless Viking warrior. According to Nietzsche, morality was a tool employed by the weak to manipulate the strong, and he held those in highest regard who could reinvent themselves through acts of tremendous willpower. But if we can't revert to God to find meaning, and humanity is flawed, where is meaning out to be found? Are we forever lost? And how do we cope with the existential dread? According to Nietzsche, we should embrace the Stoic principle of amor fati, which means loving one's fate. We have been thrown into life in changing circumstances with little choice in the matter. However, genuine choice is possible in our acts of overcoming specific limitations and gaining some control over our fluctuating circumstances. Love and embrace all that life throws at you, both the good and the bad. Instead of resenting life's trials, see them as opportunities to test yourself and grow. Thus, contemplating about your life filled you with feelings of anxiety and regret, Nietzsche would advise you to change course. Ask that girl out, write that novel, learn that new skill you always wanted to learn, make amends with your estranged friend, head out on a long-dreamed adventure, and at the same time, stop worrying about life's hardships and uncertainties and embrace them wholeheartedly. Following Nietzsche's outlook, another philosophical movement known as existentialism was founded. Existentialism emerged as a philosophical response to nihilism and was popularized by the likes of Kierkegaard, Jean-Paul Sartre, and Albert Camus. The existentialist acknowledges the absence of inherent meaning in life, but it posits that humans have the capacity and responsibility to create their own meaning and define their own values by placing a strong emphasis on individual freedom, choice, and personal responsibility. According to the existential philosopher Albert Camus, the belief in the meaninglessness of life was a natural response to the absurdity of existence. Camus represents three philosophical responses to this predicament. The first is physical suicide, which he rejects as a cowardly escape from life. The second is a religious solution, positing a transcendent world beyond the absurd, which Camus calls philosophical suicide and sees as evasive and fraudulent. The third and only authentic solution, according to Camus, is to accept or embrace the absurd and continue living. He believes that by fully accepting the inherent meaninglessness of life, one can engage in a courageous revolt against the absurdity. The concept of revolt, for Camus, involved asserting one's own freedom and autonomy while acknowledging that life has no predetermined purpose. Through revolt, individuals can embrace their existence fully and engage in meaningful actions, even in the face of a meaningless universe. However, Camus also emphasizes the limits of revolt. It should not betray its own principles by disregarding the dignity and humanity of others. True revolt involves compassion and respect for all individuals, reflecting a humanist perspective that sets Camus apart from existentialism. One day I was scrolling through Instagram and I came across a quote from Oscar Wilde, which said, and I quote, "Life imitates art far more than art imitates life." But if life is meaningless, does that mean all art is meaningless by definition? Although it would be absurd to argue all form of art is inherently meaningless, one such movement that questioned the traditional notions of art and embraced the idea of meaningless and nihilism was Dadaism. Dadaism emerged during the aftermath of World War I, a period marked by disillusionment and a sense of despair. For the delusioned artists of the Dada movement, the war merely confirmed the degradation of social structures that led to such violence. The Dadaists vehemently rejected the idea that Dada was an art movement. Instead, they saw it as an anti-art movement. They often incorporated found objects, everyday items, and nonsensical juxtaposition in their work and labeled them as art. They believed that art had lost its significance and had become a mere commodity, devoid of genuine emotion and purpose. And by intentionally creating works that seemed absurd, nonsensical, or even purposeless, they sought to confront the audience with the emptiness and irrationality they perceived in the world. Anything that you perceived as art was now a piece of artwork. Just like this mass-produced urinal created by Marcel Duchamp, famously known as the Fountain. Marcel Duchamp was a French artist, widely regarded as one of the most influential figures in the 20th century. Duchamp was associated with various art movements throughout his career, but he's particularly known for his involvement in the Dada movement. During his exhibition in 1917, Duchamp reoriented the urinal by 90 degrees from its originally intended position of use, and had signed on it the pseudonym R. Mutt. The artwork was submitted to an exhibition organized by a Society of Independent Artists, but was rejected by the jury, sparking a heated debate about the nature and definition of the art, as some would go on to claim that it was immoral and vulgar. For some, it was plagiarism, a plain piece of plumbing. However, a few others would rise to its defense, claiming that, and I quote, "Mr. Mutt's fountain is not immoral. That is absurd. No more than a bathtub is immoral. It is a fixture that you see every day in a plumber's show windows. Whether Mr. Mutt with his own hands made the fountain or not has no importance. He chose it. He took an ordinary article of life, placed it so its useful significance disappeared under the new title and point of view, and created a new thought for the object." Duchamp's intention was to provoke thought and challenge the very essence of what art could be. By choosing a mass-produced object that had a functional purpose in everyday life, Duchamp sought to challenge the traditional ideas of craftsmanship, originality, and aesthetic beauty. So why was it still so significant? In my opinion, the significance of Duchamp's work can be summarized as follows. Duchamp argued that the artistic act was not necessarily in the physical creation of the object, but in the selection and designation of the object as art. And perhaps that is significant. Maybe life as we know it does not necessitate meaning being imposed to it from external forces, but rather, like Duchamp pointed out, we have the agency to assign meaning to various aspects of our own lives, no matter how nonsensical and absurd they might appear to someone else.